Hey everyone, welcome back to The Highlight. My name is Drew and I'm returning for another semester of The Highlight. However, we have some new faces. I'm joined with Sean Clifton and AJ Diaz. Guys, please introduce yourselves.
My name is Sean, and I'm in 11th grade.
My name is AJ, and I'm in 9th grade.
Today we'll be discussing Week 0 of college football and our predictions for Week 1 on this Saturday, August 31st. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Game day is coming up, and if anyone needs a charcuterie board for their finger foods or maybe a table to gather around and watch the game, contact Silver Sky Woodworking. For more information, go to veridiannews.org. And we're always looking for new sponsors, so let us know on veridiannews.org if you would like to be a part of our work and reach our audience with us.
Who do you have winning the national championship?
Personally, I have Georgia, only because A, I'm a Georgia fan, and B, I think they have one of the best rosters in the country. But I could see Ohio State, Oregon, and maybe Alabama. But in reality, it all depends on who gets the first round bye in the 12-team playoff.
Sean?
Okay, so I see Georgia because of our incoming freshmen. They seem to be building around our already developed team. Plus, we have a very talented QB along with a monster O-line. Our defense for the past years have been a strong quality of ours, and that will not be changed this year. A key player is Malachi Starks, who I think is the best safety in college football.
I agree with both of y'all, what y'all both said. I have also Georgia winning the national championship due to their new freshmen this season. Not only does the team have a good team already, but the new incoming players that they have are already amazing. Oh, who will win the Heisman?
Personally, another Georgia fan here. I think Carson Beck wins it. But if I had to give a top 5, I'd probably go with Carson Beck, Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, Ollie Gordon Jr., and Jackson Dart. That's just my top 5, though.
So my opinion on who's going to win the Heisman, I am a Georgia fan, so I'm going to have to say Carson Beck here. His performance last year was pretty good, but he has to still fill Stetson Bennett's shoes. So I think this year he might be even better than last year. But as a Georgia fan, we're just going to have to see how the expectations of him, roll out this year. And yeah, we'll see.
I also have Carson Beck winning due to him coming off his season as a starter, his first season in college football, and he played really well last season, having over 4,000 total yards. Who will win each P4 conference?
Okay, this is kind of easy for me, but I have Georgia winning the SEC, Kansas winning the Big 12. I know it's a hot take. I have Clemson or Miami winning the ACC, and then whoever wins the Oregon versus Ohio State matchup in the regular season, the loser wins the Big 10.
So I actually think in the ACC, FSU will be winning. In the Big 10, Ohio State. The Big 12, Utah. And the SEC, Georgia.
Who will win the G05 spot for the CFP?
I think it'll be Boise State or USF, just because I feel like they have the best roster in the Go 5, or the two of the best rosters, and I think they have all the talent they can do it.
So I actually also think Boise State will do it just because of the returning starters. There's a remarkably Ashton Janty. He rushed for 1,300 yards last year, and he's looking pretty up this year, so that's my pick.
What will be Georgia's biggest game for the season?
It has to be Alabama. They only beat them once in the last 10 years, and that was the Natty, and obviously that's the most important game. But it's at Alabama, and it'll be a huge deciding factor in the SEC, considering we don't have divisions anymore. So give me Alabama. I wouldn't count out that Texas game later in the season, though.
So I also think Alabama, just because of the skill that Alabama has. The game will be very exciting and nail-biting, but I do think and Georgia will be coming up on top.
Will FSU bounce back?
By term definition, I believe it means to come back stronger, but I think they'll win 9 or 10 games. They might have a shot at winning the ACC, but that's only if Clemson and Miami lose 3 or 4 games.
I think FSU will bounce back just due to their very experienced O-line and their very deep running back depth. The offense is definitely looking different from last year, but I definitely think that, a bounce back is coming.
Speaking of Florida State, what do you think the Week 0 upset from Georgia Tech?
Personally, I was rooting against both teams. I didn't want to see either team win, but it was amazing seeing Florida State lose not only to both Georgia teams in a matter of 8 months, but they've been whining and complaining all offseason, and it was really nice to see them just get destroyed like that.
I actually think Georgia Tech is overlooked this year. Last year the record obviously wasn't good with a 7-6 finish. But I do think this year, in the offseason, they really dug down and trained, and they will be pretty good this year. The FSU upset is pretty exciting because I'm a Georgia fan, but yeah.
I agree with what Sean said. Georgia Tech, it was like kind of surprising when they beat Florida State, but I feel like it demonstrates how much they put in the work and gotten better overall. Is Haynes King legit?
Personally, I'm not trying to be too Georgia biased, but I think he has a little too much hype. Like, if you check the stats from the Georgia Tech Florida State game, he was a little underwhelming, but then again, he's not the most pocket passer quarterback. I think he could fall off near the end, considering the hard schedule they have of I don't know how many ranked teams, but he could just plummet if he doesn't play well.
So actually, contrary to Drew, I do think Haynes King has proven to be legit. His improvement from 2022 to 2023, it just proves that he's reliable and he's getting better each year. So this year, he might be pretty good.
Will GT have a chance to make the playoffs?
It's kind of like one of those Florida situations where they have a really hard schedule, but they could also make the playoff if they have like 9 or 10 wins. Considering the really hard schedule they have, they could make it with 8 or 9 wins. Not only win those games, but they could also make it as an ACC champ. So, I don't know, maybe, but right now, probably not.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with Drew. I don't really think Georgia Tech has a chance to make it to the playoffs, just because of also the scheduling, but also like the competition in the ACC. I mean, you have FSU and Louisville, which are very good teams, so we'll just have to see this year.
What do y'all think FSU's record would be this year?
I think they'll go 10-2. They already lost to Georgia Tech, but I think they'll lose to Miami and maybe Notre Dame. That's going to be like a really 50-50 game.
I'm not really too sure. I think the record might be like 11-3 or something. Like their team's slight decline from last year, I think it really is going to impact the team this year. So who knows though.
How about what y'all think about GT's record?
I think it'll be 8-4 with losses to North Carolina, Notre Dame, NC State, and Georgia. I just don't see Haynes King winning too many big games.
I think the record might be 8-5. As Drew said, they have a pretty tough schedule, but I mean, as I said again, like the ACC is a pretty hard division, at least for Georgia Tech. There are some teams that are better than them in the ACC, so I don't know what the record might be.
What is your playoff prediction for all 12 teams?
All right, this seems a little basic, but I got number 1 Georgia, number 2 Oregon, the ACC championship winner at 3, number 4 Kansas, number 5 Ohio State, number 6 Texas, number 7 Ole Miss, and then the loser of the ACC championship game at 8, number 9 Notre Dame, number 10 Alabama, number 11 Michigan, and then number 12 Boise State or USF.
So I have quite a similar list as Drew. Number 1, obviously Georgia, 2 Oregon, 3 Clemson, 4 Kansas, 5 Ohio, 6 Texas, 7 Ole Miss, 8 Miami, 9 Notre Dame, 10 Alabama, 11 Michigan, and 12 Boise State.
I got Georgia as number 1, Oregon as number 2, Ohio State as number 3, Miami as number 4, Utah as number 5, Texas as number 6, Notre Dame as number 7, Michigan number 8, Alabama number 9, Penn State at number 10, Boise State at 11, and Ole Miss at 12. If Ryan Day doesn't win the national championship this year, is he on the hot seat?
Absolutely. I think he's already on the hot seat because every single year, a lot of the fans like to refer to him as born on third base. That can't be more true because he can't win big games other than in the regular season. And Penn State really isn't a big game because they always choke anyways. But if he doesn't win this year with the overstacked roster he has, he needs to get out. There are a lot more coaches who have done a lot more with a lot less.
I think Ryan Day, he might be in the hot seat due to just how long he's been at Ohio State, and they have not been able to win a chip yet. They went in 2021 against Alabama and suffered a loss. And just like the players are good, but just something's missing, and it might be that coach. So he might have to get the boot.
I agree with what Drew and Sean said. I feel like he is going to be on the hot seat, even though he's done some things, but his performance hasn't been as well as other coaches there is in the college football game. How do you feel about Alabama with the new head coach, Kellen DeBoer?
They have a lot of potential. I mean, obviously losing Nick Saban, one of the worst things that could happen to a program. I mean, he's the greatest college football coach of all time. There's really no argument against it. But I could definitely see them winning 10-ish games, maybe 11, maybe 9. But I think Milroe will definitely shine in this DeBoer offense. But I think they just definitely have some holes to fill in the defense and maybe even the offense.
I definitely agree with Drew. I mean, Nick Saban did a lot for Alabama, and him leaving is kind of sad to see. But as a Georgia fan, I'm kind of happy about it. Kellen, he's going to add something to the team, but he obviously can't fill Nick Saban's shoes. I mean, Alabama is still going to be top 10 team this year, in my opinion. But we'll have to see how Kellen just does.
Will Carson Beck exceed expectations or fail?
I think he's going to exceed. A lot of people think he's overrated just because he's in a high-powered Georgia offense. But this guy he almost broke the SEC, or not the SEC, the Georgia passing record in his first year as a starter. Honestly, I think he's kind of underrated. I think he'd go for a Heisman finish this year, maybe even win the Heisman.
I definitely agree with Drew. I think Carson Beck is, he's definitely a crucial part of Georgia. Stetson Bennett, obviously leaving, sad to see, but then Carson Beck comes in. People, people didn't know how he was going to do, and then he just performed insanely well. And yeah, I mean, I just think he'll be very, very good this year, and he's definitely, I wouldn't say he's underrated, but I think he's properly rated.
What's y'all's hot take this season?
All right. Going back on what I said about the Oregon-Ohio State game, I think Ohio State beats Oregon in the regular season. Oregon wins the Big Ten championship against the first-round bye. Ohio State wins their first-round game but loses to Georgia, and then Georgia beats Oregon in the championship.
So my hot take is actually I think Georgia Tech might win the ACC. I mean, Georgia Tech, they've proven to be, like just this first week, they already beat FSU, so who knows what they can do this season. People hate on Georgia Tech, just for the rivalry, but in my opinion, I think both teams, obviously Georgia's better in my opinion, but both teams are in Georgia, and I'm a Georgia fan, I'm Georgia born, so I think Georgia Tech might pull it off, and they might win the ACC.
I feel like Georgia Tech might make the playoffs above all the odds.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in next time for the first week of the NFL season, just a recap and some predictions. And always remember,
stay classy, Walnut Grove.